We're
And
live!
this is weird.
This is weird. This is the closest we've ever been in space.
It's very true.
It is true.
Yeah. I don't have we how have we never Skyped?
I don't know. I mean, I called you that one time, like when I was practicing before your recital, and that was it. I've asked, to be fair, I've asked you a few times though.
I know, because I'm really busy.
I'm in a master's program too, you know, or at least I was.
You're done though. You graduated.
Yeah, but this was while I was still in my master's program.
That's true.
Shame.
I don't know what to tell you.
I like all the the studs.
It's actually just one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it a clip-on?
Yep.
Oh, it's cute.
I'm allergic to rubbing alcohol, so it's hard to get my ears pierced.
Oh. Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, how do we know if like people are actually like listening into us? Or is this just
I have a viewer
wait,
count.
is this just being recorded live, or is this like something where people can like chime in at any point?
I don't
Yeah, this is a learning experience for both of us.
I know.
I've never done this before.
I know, neither have I. I'm gonna post a link to the live stream on Tumblr.
Okay.
And then we'll see what happens. Because it's like supposed to be streaming, like you know how YouTubers will have live events and there'll be a link on your subscription page. Oh, we have 2 viewers now.
Oh, we do? How do you see that?
I think it's because I'm hosting it that I have it. So hi guys.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to figure out what the hell is going on right now.
I trust you entirely.
I think that might be a problem.
That's me trusting you. Noted.
I'm a very character, don't you know?
I'm a character too. It's all right.
That's true.
Okay. It's true. How I am online is pretty much how I am in real life, except maybe just a little bit more professional. Because I have to be, because I'm 24.
I'm 22. I feel young.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only older than you by a year. I mean, you're going to be turning 20 a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, my birthday's in September.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a year and a half older than you. Don't turn 24 just yet. Don't.
I'm not planning on it.
No, because then you got to do adult things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about flute.
Yes.
Not the tuba.
Sorry. I'm like trying to do 2 things at once. Yes, flute. I think the idea was to talk about like how we ended up where we are now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So while I am trying to figure out how to find a link to this, why don't
turn 24 just yet.
Why don't you start talking?
Okay, that sounds good. I can talk.
Yeah.
So I started relatively late compared to most people in America. Generally, most people start like in 4th or 5th grade, depending on what state you're in. I didn't start until I was in 7th grade. And that was because I went to a private Catholic school, and we didn't really have a music program per se, and it kind of started. Well, I mean, it's just it was really small. I wasn't introduced to it early enough, but I really liked the sound of the flute, and so I said I want to learn how to play that thing, and so I did. And the rest is history. No, that's not the story. God, if that was the story. When I was in 8th grade, then the music program got scrapped. So I wasn't playing flute for a whole year. And then when I went to high school, I decided, I almost didn't do high school band. Like I almost took music appreciation instead. And I'm really glad I didn't. But I decided to do it. And then really, I didn't get serious about it until I was in my junior year of high school. Like the summer going into my junior year, I started taking private lessons. And for the stereotypical flute player reasons, because I was going to be a junior. I was going to be the oldest person in my section, and I wanted to be first chair. That's why I took lessons.
This is reminiscent of the video you sent me.
Exactly. Because at one point in time, I was like that 15-year-old girl too. I've never been a 15-year-old girl at any point in my life, and I never wanted to be a 15-year-old girl. However, yeah, I wanted to be first chair, so I took lessons, and then I got first chair.
Oh, that is successful.
Successful. And then I started, because at the music school I was taking lessons from, they had an honors youth wind ensemble. In my senior year, I auditioned for that. I got into that. I got into our youth orchestra. I got into the regional band for Connecticut. And then really around my June, for those of you who have watched the live stream of my recitals, I'm pretty much just going to say the exact same thing all over again. But how I decided to I wanted to be a music major was in the middle of my junior year of high school. I had just started listening to classical music, and I was listening to the radio, and I was just making note cards, and then I heard this really gorgeous piece come on the radio. And it was the second movement of Owazin's ballad, Pastoral and Dance, which she is working on at the moment, and I just did not too long ago. And the second movement, like, completely had me in chills the entire time. It was so amazing. I'd never heard something so beautiful. And I realized in that moment that I wanted to be able to affect people with music in the same ways that it affected me. And because I didn't really have much exposure to classical music as a kid, I wanted to be able to cultivate the same love and passion that my teachers were able to get out of me for other students. Because I wasn't exposed to classical music growing up. I mean, outside of what I may have heard on the radio or what I may have heard on television or in the media or whatever. So what exactly sparked this in my mind that I wanted to play the flute when I was in 7th grade, I have no freaking clue. And since then, I mean, it's taken me on a really crazy adventure. It's taken me to places I never thought I'd go. I was in a choir in my undergrad, and I got to go to Germany and Poland for a 10-day tour. Yeah, right. They do an international tour every 4 years. So every 3 or 4 years they do an international tour. I joined it right at the right time, and so I got to go to Germany and Poland. It's brought me down to the South. I got to go to Chicago, got to go to South Carolina, and it's taking me on a really exciting thing that I have been vowed to secrecy to until the end of this month. I've already told you what it is, but I can't make anything public until it's gone public.
Us talking on we don't even text, we just message.
Yeah.
The count.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So that's kind of my journey, and now I've finished a master's program. I'm now a young 20-something who is in that face, though. It's going to be you next year.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. So how's that job hunt going? You might want to start now. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, so now I'm just a young 20-something looking for work, and it's mainly in arts administration because I had a lot of experience in that in my undergrad, and looking for whatever to play or do whatever I can. And I have an awesome flute quartet that I'm still lucky enough to be able to play in, and we're doing things, and we're doing a lot of exciting things for down the pike. Not too much. What?
Have you guys all graduated now?
Only one of us is still in school.
Okay.
Our youngest member is going to be entering his senior year of college. Jackie and I just finished our degrees at the same time. She finished her undergrad in December. I finished my master's in May, and then Mary graduated last year. So yeah, but right now, I mean, Jackie and I because Jackie stayed in Greenville, and she did an internship, she continued teaching at the school that she did her student teaching internship with, because one of their teachers left in the spring semester, so she kept teaching there to make money, and her plan is to try to stay in the area so she can re-audition for grad schools. Mary has her life with her wonderful boyfriend and in the house that she's living in. So she's getting her life figured out, and her piano tuning business is taking off. And I'm still sorting out my life. And Ben's got a year to figure out what he's doing with it. So it's such a wonderful time to be a 20-something and trying to figure out what we're doing. So that's my story. I'm done talking. Your turn.
Okay, and I am done fighting with multiple forms of communication at the same time. So
okay.
I can talk.
Are there people actually watching us?
What?
Are there people actually watching us?
There are 4 people.
Hi, 4 people.
Hello. So yeah. So I am from Cleveland. If any of you think I'm from Canada, I'm not. I promise.
You see, it took me about like a few months to figure that out after I started following you on Tumblr.
I know. There's a lot of people who still think I'm Canadian, who still think I'm in Canada. For those of you who don't know, I am not in Canada. I just did my undergrad there. I am not Canadian. I'm from Ohio. But,
don't let the maple syrup fool you.
Yeah. And the fact that I say sorry.
Sorry. Oh, you don't say it like an American.
No.
Sorry. No. Oh, don't ya? No.
So yeah.
Good pass for Canadian.
Exactly. I am from Cleveland. I grew up about 10 minutes drive from CIM, which is Cleveland Institute of Music, for those of you who don't know. And they have a prep division starting from like tiny, tiny little kids. And one of the things that CIM does, even for their undergrads and their even for their college students, is eurythmics, which is a pedagogical tool that basically teaches musical skill through movement and internalizing rhythm and things like that. And there's a branch of eurythmics that's for kids, for little kids. And my parents enrolled me in that when I was like 3, I want to say. So I did 3 years of that. And in the process, we were going to Cleveland Orchestra educational concerts and things like that. And they always had activities for the kids because, I mean, they're orchestra concerts made for kids. So they have things like you can try all the orchestral instruments and things like that. And I went to one of those, tried all of the instruments, literally could only get a sound on horn and flute. And I don't know why I rejected horn, but I did.
That's such a strong word, rejected horn.
I basically did. And so I wanted to play flute. 4-year-old Robin was really, really set on this, apparently. And so my parents asked my
wait, back up. You started playing flute at 4?
No, I'm about to go there.
Okay,
we're getting there. They asked what I could do to start playing flute, not knowing anything about flute or how to do, like, basically didn't know anything about music education. My parents are music lovers, but not musicians. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, no one at CIM will start teaching you until you're in 4th grade at the earliest. So what you can do is start piano. Because the string program was all Suzuki. If I was going to get started into this, going to get out. Plus, it's not really helpful for a wind player to start learning violin. Whereas piano is really, really helpful, no matter what you play, as we all know, having been through basic piano classes in undergrad. So I started piano. And then when I was in 4th grade, I had to go into an interview with this teacher to see if I was appropriate to start flute. He like looked at my face and like heard me play piano, and like we had like a half-an-hour interview about like what I wanted to do. I was 8. So this was like really weird and intense if you think back on it.
I can't imagine me ever like sitting down with an 8-year-old being like, so why do you want to play the flute? Where are you going with this? What do you want to do with this with your life? Now play the piano. I can't picture myself doing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm sure they do it have great reasons for doing it, and because it's been a success to their program.
I mean, he's a very, very. I can't even. I don't actually know if he's still alive because he retired to South Carolina when I was in high school.
No.
But he is this very elderly Hungarian man was the principal flutist for the Royal Hungarian Opera for eons until he emigrated to the States, and then ended up as like the lead flute professor for the prep division. He didn't teach the college kids because that's what Josh Smith does. But oh, I'm sorry, someone was texting me. Whatever. He became the head of the prep division, and he was the one that was recommended to us. He is the one that taught most of the prep kids at CIM, and so he's the one that I talk to. He has a lot of stories because he's a very old man, would tell you stories during your lessons, and one of his favorite was this girl who went into her trial thing, whatever it was, and he basically told her that she wasn't going to be a great flute player. Like, no matter what she did, she wasn't going to be successful. However, she was going to be a successful musician if she switched to French horn. And she was like, no, but I really, really want to play flute. Like, I really just want to take flute lessons. And he's like, okay, so here's the deal. I'll teach you for like a year, year and a half. And if I feel like you're not making the progress that I want you to, because he has very set expectations for his students, then I would like you to try horn. And so she agreed, apparently. I think she must have been older, like 12 or 13. And took a year of lessons, wasn't really progressing the way he wanted her to, and switched to horn, and then became a horn major. Right. So I think it's crazy because he basically told this girl she couldn't play flute, but apparently it worked. So I started taking lessons with him, did that until he retired when I was 16. Also, fun fact, my first flute lesson ever was supposed to be September 11th, 2001.
Oh. I think I knew that.
It was canceled.
Yeah. There was a lot going on that day.
Yep. So, technically I started flute when I was 9, because I turned 9 between September 11th and between whenever my next lesson was rescheduled for. So, I took lessons. My high school is one of the best in Ohio for music education, or school system. I wasn't in high school at that point. They start instruments when you're in 5th grade, and if you start in 5th grade, you tend to continue through high school just because you kind of have to. And so I started playing in band there. In high school, I started in one of the local youth symphonies. It was a wind band. It's Cleveland Youth Wind Symphony. There's 2 groups. It's run out of Case Western. And then my teacher retired when I was going into sophomore year of high school. There were a ton of flute teachers around Cleveland because it's Cleveland. And I trialed with a couple of them and decided to go with the one I studied with her for 2 years, and in the process joined Contemporary Youth Orchestra, which is a one-of-a-kind youth orchestra that only exists in Cleveland. It only plays music from the 20th century or later. They do a lot of work with music in its industry, so you do stuff with movie music and stuff with TV music and things that aren't necessarily traditional classical music. And their last concert of every year is with a rock artist. So I've played with John Anderson from Yes, this weird all hip hop concert that was one of the strangest experiences of my life. I was in the choir when they played with Jefferson Starship. They played with Ben Folds last year. Yeah, they've played with Styx. They've played with Pat Benatar. They played with Graham Nash this year. It's a lot of older rock artists, but like they do one of these concerts every year. It's one of the things that they do. So that's what got me into contemporary music, because I was in that for 3 years. My senior year of high school, my teacher decided that she didn't feel comfortable preparing me for my college auditions, because she was mostly teaching really, really good flute students who had no interest in going on. So she hadn't really prepared anyone for a college audition in a very long time and didn't really feel comfortable. And since I was in Cleveland and had access to people like my former teacher, who was the assistant principal of Cleveland, who had obviously done all of this. She felt like having someone like Marcella teach me would be better. So she had me switch to Marcella. Marcella got me through all my auditions. I went to University of Toronto and studied there for my undergrad, and now I'm at IU. So I'm actually really grateful that she was mature enough. I mean, obviously she was an adult, but like she really was honest enough and mature enough to move me on, although I was her best student, and like she didn't have as strong of a studio once I left. And a lot of teachers will be really possessive and try to keep their best students, and she was more than happy to move me on. And because of that, we still have a really great working relationship. I come back and play with her studio sometimes as like a ringer for their flute choir, or I did a duet with her a couple of years ago on a recital. We did in Clark's Maya. Just like, I'm still more than happy to help her out or like do things with her because she was really, really professional about it. And so that was really nice.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a scary thing preparing a student to audition for college, because actually I'm doing that right now.
Right, exactly.
I have one high school student, and she's auditioning for undergrad in the coming year. Ah! I know. I'm trying to like come up. I actually, because I just got out of a lesson with her, and you know we were trying to come up with a list of schools, and I'm like, oh God. And like, I mean, honestly, in the back of my mind, I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing? But I don't feel like I've hit a wall where like I don't know what the heck to do with her next. It's one of those things where I know I have more to give her, so I personally feel comfortable teaching her through her college auditions, and then she'll go off wherever,
and get a college professor.
Yeah, and get some big time professor. Possibly my big time professor that I just finished my degree with.
Yeah.
She'll be a legacy student.
Aww.
Oh yeah, it would be super cute.
Yeah. But so why don't we talk about, like, we're two of the oldest bloggers. So
Yeah.
I think the only one who's older than us is Catherine, who is in Kath's Music. She's at McGill right now, but she studied with my teacher in Toronto. And so I met her in Toronto. Like, I know her in real life.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a very small pool for us because there aren't many people in their early to mid 20s really blogging. It's really predominantly 14 to 21.
Yeah.
It's very strange, and it feels very strange for me coming in, because it's not like you did it through your undergrad. I came in right in the middle of my grad, which seems strange.
No, you started right like when you were auditioning for grad school, because I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't blog about my auditions for grad school though.
Well, you did a little bit.
I was trialing flutes. That's when I started. I think that's how you found me, was I was trying out flutes in New York City.
That might be true.
I didn't join Tumblr until the summer. Yeah, I didn't join Tumblr. I just got my birthday email not that long ago.
Okay, I'll believe you.
I joined, yeah, it was the summer of 2013.
Okay. I
didn't have time to blog about my grad school auditions.
Well, because you were ed in undergrad, right?
Yeah, I was music ed. It's weird because like my degree technically it's music ed, but then on my transcript there's a stamp that says performance honors. Because with the way that SU works is regardless of unless you're a performance major, once you become a junior, you only take half-hour lessons as a junior and senior. And so, but there were always a lot of people, particularly music ed students, because SU is predominantly a music ed school. A lot of us want to give junior and senior recitals. I mean, you were more than welcome to if you weren't a performance major, but in terms of scheduling your recital, the performance majors would get priority. So they created this program called the Performance Honors Program. I don't know how long it's been happening for. I feel like it's been happening at least for over 10 years. And the Performance Honors Program, it enables you to still take lessons for an hour with your teacher, and then you have to give a junior and senior recital. and then it's marked on your transcript that you have this. It doesn't show up on your actual degree, but on my academic transcript says that I did the performance honors program.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's kind of like doing a dual degree in music and performance, but it isn't, because they at SU you can't do that for whatever reason. So I mean, this is kind of an alternative to doing that, so this way you don't have to spend 5 years doing your undergrad. Since this way you can just move on to grad school right away.
Right.
So that was my track, because I did my undergrad was at Syracuse, and then schools I auditioned for were the Hart School of Music, Montclair State University, West Virginia University, and East Carolina University. I ended up at East Carolina University because I really liked the teacher, and I got offered the most money to come here to all of my schools. How I found out about ECU is a very crazy and convoluted story, because I used to be a content writer for a Neopets fan site.
Oh yeah, you totally told me about this. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm like, I couldn't remember if I told you this. And one of my friends, like Alan, my friend Alan and I, we were friends on there, and so we were all Facebook friends with each other on the staff. And so then, okay, that was like my senior year of high school when I started working for that site, and so I worked for them a little bit through my undergrad, but then I just couldn't do it because I was too busy. But I still kind of stayed in touch with Alan, and I realized eventually that he was a music major too, in voice music, and I didn't even know that. I didn't even know he was a classically trained musician until after I stopped working. But when I was doing my graduate search, I was like, I didn't know where to begin. So I was like, well, where do my friends go to school? Where do my friends do their graduate programs? Where are my friends currently going to school? And so then I asked Alan about the music program at ECU, and then he put me in touch with a flute player, and she said a lot of great things. I was like, all right, I'll apply. And then, yeah, here I am. And then the first time I met him in person was at my audition. We had the craziest adventure together, because I met Ben at my audition, who now plays in my flute quartet. Mm-hmm. And like we hit it off so well. And I had my flute lesson before my audition with Dr. G. And so in my audition, I realized I left my jacket in her studio. So I asked her, it's like, oh, can I get your key so I can go to your studio and pick up my jacket? And because I was like one of the last people to audition, so she said, oh yeah, go ahead and like just sit there. I'll talk to you. And so I went up. I was sitting in her office by myself, and then eventually Ben and Alan found me. And when Dr. G walked into her studio, she's like, wow, it's just a party in here. Have you guys had lunch yet? And so then she took us out to lunch, and it was just like the three of us were just in shock because we couldn't believe this was actually happening. And then me, I'm like, because I'm just like, I'm sitting here, I'm just auditioning, and then this all happened. And it was just awesome. And it was just so awesome. And we had the craziest conversation about stuff, and it was hilarious. And that's still like one of my favorite memories to date, because that was just that was the most fun I ever had at any audition. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and now Alan and I were really good friends. We're practically best friends, and Ben plays in my flute quartet, and I've been all over the place with him in my quartet now. And so it's just crazy how I met everybody. And it's so interesting how my quartet came together, because Mary was auditioning for the Coast Guard band, which I think they're based in Connecticut. And so I had friended her on Facebook before I went to ECU, because I needed help apartment hunting and I didn't know where to start. So Dr. G put me in touch with her. And then she posted something on Facebook like, hey, any friends in Connecticut or want to hang out? I'm sitting in a hotel and I'm bored. I have nothing else to do. So then I messaged her, and so we met up in my hometown. We got lunch together. And then so that we got, we hit it off really well. And then when I finally moved down to North Carolina, we met up again. And I said, wouldn't it be really great if we had a flute quartet or something, maybe like a class for chamber music credit or something. And so like, okay, well, it can be me, you, and Ben. Who's going to be the other flute player? And then she's like, well, you should talk to Jackie. And so I hadn't met Jackie at all in person. And I friended her on Facebook, sent her a message like, hey, we have this idea. Do you want to do it? And then she willingly agreed, having never met me. She's totally down for it. And then I remember I heard a flute player warming up next to my office. And so I knocked on the door, and it was her, and then that's when I met her. And the rest is history. And now we become this really great ensemble where we've been semifinalists in a competition. We keep entering competitions. We've given now 3 solo concerts of different repertoire, but we still do a lot of community performances of old repertoire that we've done. In fact, we have a gig in August at a nursing home, paid gig in August.
Oh.
Yeah, we gave our last big performance was in April. It was April 25th or 26th. It was the last Sunday. That was the last performance of my graduate career.
I almost said undergrad.
I almost said undergrad. You see, because I'm not. It hasn't set in that I have a master's degree. You see, it's not going to really set in until I receive my degree in the mail and I frame it.
Oh yeah. So in Canada, you get your degree when you walk. Because the thing is, like, I ended in April. Like, I was done with every single form of coursework, including finals, April 11th. And then graduation was in June.
Why is there that big of a gap?
Because first of all, exams go till April 30th. And then they verify that you've actually graduated before they even let you walk.
Oh.
Like, we don't actually, music students don't apply for graduation by hand. The school does it for us because there's only like 100 of us every year. But normally you would apply and then you don't get confirmation that you can walk until about halfway through May. And then they give you your diploma on the day.
Oh. I wish we kind of did that here.
Yeah.
I mean,
it means they don't have the thing where people walk and then don't actually get their diploma ever because they don't finish their degree.
That sucks. Yeah. It is frustrating, though, having to wait so long to get your degree because, like, I did all the work. I swear, it's done. Like, I still haven't gotten mine yet. I should be getting. I think ECU said they're going to mail out degrees, actually this week. So I should get mine sometime in the next month. Get that expensive piece of paper. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to now is job hunting, flute quartet stuff. A lot of flute quartet stuff because we recently attended the Savvy Musician in Action, which was amazing, tiring, exhausting, and inspiring. That was like, you know, when they told us like on the first day that it was like an MBA in 5 days, they weren't kidding. That included sleep deprivation and all. It was so much fun though, and I met so many amazing people. And it was fun that we got to share that as a quartet and get to see what other ensembles are doing as far as like their integrative art stuff, and getting to see the people who made it as the finalists for the competition was really cool. And it's really interesting to see because we were one of the youngest groups that they had let through to the semifinal round. And one of the finalists, the group, was roughly about the same age as my group. I think the average age in my ensemble is a little bit younger than theirs. But it was just really interesting to connect with people that are still relatively close to our age who are already in the professional field doing things that we want to do. And it kind of makes me jealous. I'm meeting people who are like 25 and 26. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have your whole life figured out already. And it's like, now I got to get there.
Join the club.
What?
Join the club.
Yeah, it's okay. You got one more year of school. You could go for your DMA and prolong it.
You think I want a DMA?
I don't know. You want to avoid the real world a little bit longer, you might.
The thing is, like, I'm 22 and I've never been out of school ever.
Mm-hmm.
I want at least a year of actual life. I mean, that might be terrifying and might be a stupid plan, but I feel like I've only ever functioned within a school system. I know how to work a school music community, but I need to actually figure out how the real music community works and have a chance to like experience that, even if it's just for a year and then I go back and do a DM or do a diploma or something like that. Especially since I've decided I want to go the freelance new music route.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, there's something. I mean, that's what I mean, I'm definitely like at the end of my master's, I started feeling it a lot. Was I need a break from school for a little bit. I eventually want to get a doctoral degree because one of my goals is to eventually teach college level flute, which I don't necessarily need a DMA to do if I have the performance experience to back me. But it's something that's on my radar. I want to take at least 2 or 3 years off because I don't want to go into a doctoral degree without any real world experience.
exactly.
I mean, I've had a bunch of jobs, both in arts, admin, and in other stuff that are music related, but they're all part-time things, and they've all been associated with a school. I haven't worked for a real organization yet. Like, I haven't worked for a symphony or a performing arts company, and that's experience I want to get. Because I mean, it's also a good way for me to meet people and network, but, I mean, it's also part of my career plan for a lot bit is to do the whole arts admin route. And yeah, I definitely just could use a break. I want to do some professional playing. I want to get out there, see what the heck see if I can actually make it.
Yes.
It's a scary world for flutists. But it's great though. It's wonderful. Going to NFA is such a wonderful experience because everyone's so loving and caring. But there are so many.
Meanwhile, I have yet to actually show up at an NFA because I keep scheduling things over it.
Oh, it's okay. It
I
happens.
was gonna go to DC this year, and then I got into Orford and was like, never mind.
Yeah, I would. If I had gotten the job with the library, I would have gone to NFA this year. Because, I mean, for me, from where I am right now, it's only a 4-hour drive to DC.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the money for, like, a hotel, the registration fee, and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I had gotten the job and it started paying me, I would have been able to do something with it with, like, my first few paychecks. Oh, well. I went last year and I had a blast. So, flutists who haven't gone to NFA yet should at some point, especially if it's in the same state that you're in.
I moved to Bloomington during Chicago. I was so mad.
It's okay. Because you know what? They do one every year.
I know.
Granted, the one's in California. I can't remember where.
San Diego.
San Diego, yeah. So that one's a bit of a... But you know what? I've never been to California.
Shelby, we can go together. We can finally meet.
We can go together. We can. My flute quartet might apply again for NFA, but that's something we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
That soon, actually, because the deadline's going to be in October.
I also have all these plots to do, like Fresh Ink and New Music on the Point. So
to do what?
A bunch of the festivals, the American new music festivals, because I need to get out of Canada for a while.
If you find them, send them my way, because I haven't done much. I do a lot of new music stuff, but not a whole lot outside of academic institutions.
You should look at Fresh Ink. Because it's also like music business and arts admin. It's more than just a new music festival. It's also like the realities of doing that kind of stuff in the music world.
Mm-hmm. I'll look into that. I wish I had done... It's hard because I wish I could have done stuff this summer. Financially, that wasn't possible because, I mean, all the money that I had saved, I mean, that was going to go towards getting me through the summer so I wouldn't have to move home. Because I like being an adult who provides for himself. I wish I could have done something. That's been the hard part is that, well, yes, I've been unemployed. I haven't really had anything to do per se, at least musically. I mean, I had the Savvy Musician in action, but that wasn't. I mean, that was music based, but that was business based. That was more work based and study based than performance based.
Right.
The only performance-based thing I have going on, I mean, after I graduated, I had a recording session, but that was immediately after I graduated. So since then, I haven't really had anything to play in outside of my flute quartet, and we don't have an extremely busy performance schedule right now. Anyway, I mean, our schedule isn't terribly busy in general because our members are so spread out now. But I mean, that's the only really thing I have going on right now.
Right.
I wish I had like a community orchestra or something to play in.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm in summer school.
Yes, you're in summer school playing, what was the opera?
You're playing
Little Women Band again.
Yeah, what's actually really funny is so I was second flute when we did it in the pit at school. So I've played it 5 times already, like the whole opera through plus rehearsals. So I know this music better than basically anyone except our conductor that's playing it right now. But I'm playing piccolo, so it's a completely different part. But like you still kind of where all the writs are going to be. You know exactly where everything's going to fall, and you know
Is it the same key
where.
though?
What?
Is it in the same key?
I think it is actually.
Okay.
I can't really tell you because I'm not playing second. If I looked at the second part, I'd be like, yeah, it is. But it's kind of interesting to hear all of these people fall into the holes that the orchestra fell into the first few weeks. And like they changed it's just 3 scenes. It's the opening scene of Act 2, which is at Christmas, with the whole chorus, like the big chorus number, basically. Musetta's Waltz, which is at the end of Act 2 and is one of the really famous scenes, and then Mimi's death scene at the end of the opera. And there's this really, really gorgeous soprano solo in Mimi's death where she's dying. And it's a saxophone solo.
Not a solo.
Not a flute solo, not a clarinet solo, not an oboe solo, a saxophone.
That hurts my soul a little bit.
It was also really great because for some reason our hall is having this issue. It's had it all year with massive flies. And there's only like one, and they're really slow and they're really easy to kill, but they just kind of fly through the stage and it's really distracting. Wow. And there was one in the pit, I think the second night we did it in the fall semester. It landed on my face. Luckily, I was not playing. I did not have a Nielsen competition moment with a butterfly while playing, and we were in one of the intermissions. We were talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, we were all sitting there trying to figure out what would happen if it had landed on us, and all of us had decided that we wouldn't have been able to do what she did in that competition and keep playing. We would have just been like, nope, nope."
Yeah, no. Oh God. When we did Beggar's Opera at ECU, because our hall doesn't really have a pit. I mean, we have an area in front of the stage. It's a very small recital hall. It's really not meant for an opera. But then we'd make do, and we have like a little pit area in front, but it's really uncomfortable. So what they started doing was they put the pit on stage. But the pit is like behind. It's basically like behind and off to the corner. So this way, all the action still happening in front of the orchestra, instead of the orchestra being in front.
That's what we did with Aces and Galatea.
Yeah, it works really well actually for balance. It works great.
It works for chamber opera.
What?
It works for chamber opera.
Yeah, and Beggars. That's exactly.
And so is Aces and Galatea.
Yeah, it works. It worked really well, and they also did that for. They started doing that when we did Mozart's Idomeneo back last spring, and they did it. And they always do like some sort of nice little like decoration around the pit, like some sort of cute little wall thing. And it's really cute. I think they did something with stones and vines, and it looked really pretty and aesthetically pleasing. But this year I think we just had a black wall. Not as aesthetically pleasing.
No.
At least not from aesthetic.
I use an opera school, so
yeah.
Like what's actually really funny is it's the Musical Arts Center, or the MAC is what we call our hall. And it's actually not great for orchestra. We don't really have a hall at IU that's good acoustically for orchestra, because the MAC is built for opera. And it's actually modeled after the Met, with the tiered balconies. It only has 3, not 5, but it's the same deal. And it's a full pit. It fits like 100-person orchestra. It's ridiculous. Because IU's motto apparently is "Go big or go home." We don't have small buildings.
That's a good motto to live by. I didn't mean that sarcastically either.
No. Also, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings, and they're building a 7th right now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. They just finished, like, last year, so the year before I started, they finished the newest building, which is all studios and the percussion practice rooms. Or some of them. There's percussion practice rooms everywhere, but the bulk of the percussion studio is in the basement of this building. Every single studio has this massive widescreen TV. They're like beautiful, full or baby grand pianos in every studio, windows in every studio. They're in, like, this building is insane. It actually, I was in Chicago in May, and we may have snuck into Northwestern's new building.
Okay, I know a friend who was dating someone at Northwestern, and she was sneaking, because she was out of school, but he was still in school, and she was sneaking into Northwestern to practice.
Does she happen to play flute?
Maybe.
I think I know who that is.
You know who that is. I'm not going to rat out her name, though.
Okay. But someone swiped in, and so we just kind of followed them in and wandered around.
Oh, that sounds so that sounds moderately creepy, because that's kind of what I had to do when I was in related but unrelated. In my undergrad, I had my first apartment in my senior year of college. It didn't have laundry facilities, but there was a dorm 2 blocks up, and obviously I couldn't swipe into a dorm because I wasn't living in one anymore.
Right.
So what I would do is I would just throw all my dirty clothes in one of my suitcases, roll it up, and then just walk to the dorm and wait and make it look like I just couldn't get to my card and I was fumbling with my suitcase. So someone would let me in so I can go do laundry.
That's hilarious. Actually, I'm kind of curious because IU has a very unusual practice room system from what I've found out. First of all, none of them are locked, which is granted because we're in Bloomington, Indiana, and nothing ever happens here. But both practice room buildings aren't locked. You can just walk in. There's no keys except for the piano rooms. And we book for a full semester. So at the beginning of the semester, you go into this form. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you choose however, you get a number of hours based on your degree. So like right now I have 3 hours because I'm a master's student. So you click what times you want, what building you want, and you can even request a room if you have a specific room you want. And then do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Sunday's a free-for-all. But that means that you have rooms booked for 1 to 3 hours every day for a full semester.
Oh, that is, well, that's because of the size of your school, you need something like that. The way that it here is in my master's, the practice rooms don't have locks, and you can walk into the building pretty much at any hour. After 11 o'clock at night or on state holidays, the building is locked.
Yeah, we close at 11, but
yeah, but we can still you can still swipe in after 11 o'clock. You just have to use your card.
Oh, see, we're locked down. But it's also because most people can practice in their apartments because Bloomington.
Yeah. But yeah, they don't have locks. And over here, we can't sign out practice rooms at all. But that's also because the size of our music program. The only ones that have locks on them are the pianos with the grands in them, and those can be reserved for piano majors. But in my undergrad, we all had to have keys to get into the practice rooms. Same deal. After a certain hour, the building locks down. You can swipe in to get in after hours. But yeah, they all had keys, and all the music majors had to have a key to get into the room. But what they did was they had blocked off I think 6 out of the 16 practice rooms I think we had, or however many we had. There were a certain number that were blocked off and had a schedule on it, and you would just every week you could pencil in what hours you wanted. And you could reserve a maximum of 2 hours per day. But they didn't, and that was only Monday through Friday. The weekends were free for all.
Yeah, okay, so Toronto had, well, it's also, it's a completely urban campus. You're right in the middle of downtown. Yeah. And they have a 24-hour building, so no matter what, you had to swipe in. I actually still have mine. I'm thinking it still works because it never got deactivated. But we have these little like key fobs. You just put them up to the sensors, and that's how you get into the rooms, in both the 24-hour building and in the main building. And you used to have to go to a board and sign out rooms. You take a Sharpie and you'd block out up to 2 hours and put your initials in it. But that's not super, because you're using your initials and you can just use other people's initials. Like I would use my accompanist's initials sometimes to block off rooms.
Never would have thought to do that in my undergrad. God, that's smart.
I would use RM, I would use RJM, I would use JMM, which is my mother's initials. I would use SS if I knew that Sonia wasn't going to be using anything. I would use anything I could think of that was remotely related to me that I knew I could remember. But that means that no one's accountable. And you could also book out classrooms that way. And it was just kind of a mess because sometimes you would end up with like 6 hours and someone would have no practice time. I'm not guilty of that at all. So they switched over in my last year there to an online system, which makes you much more accountable because you can only book 2 hours at a time. Though we would like share hours, and if you had a day where you didn't need to practice during peak hours where you really needed to book, you would like give someone, you would book them for someone else and then just pretend that they were yours. Like we got around it, but it was much more regulated. Mm-hmm. And what we've discovered is that my login still worked last year, although I had graduated. So one of the flute majors was going to grad school and so she needed and lived off campus, so she needed guaranteed hours much more than someone who lived on campus would, because you can practice in your dorms and there's practice rooms in a lot of the dorms. So I gave her my login, and so she got 2 extra hours a day by using my login as well.
That's hilarious.
So, I mean, they tried really, really hard to regulate this, but not so much. I really like the IU system, also because when you have to book daily, it means that every day, and like they would release the times at midnight, which means that basically every day you were up till at least midnight just so you could book rooms. And those of you guys who know Meadow Piano, who also went to my undergrad, have seen like the massive number of posts they have made about practice room times, practice room scheduling, and U of T. So it's
oh my gosh. God, that's insane. What we would do, I mean, when they would change out the sign-up sheets in my undergrad, we did those Friday at 5 o'clock was when we did them. And some people would rush over the weekend. Like, it was always funny because I worked in the office that printed out the sheets. So sometimes what I would do is after I printed out the timesheet to swap out the one on Friday, I would just take it and write my name after I photocopied it and then paste it on the practice room I wanted. Yeah. It's like, hey, I have access to this. I mean, I can take advantage of the system. Because damn it, I want my practice room.
Yeah.
The things we do, God.
I mean, what was fun is the classrooms were still by hand, even when they switched the practice rooms over to the electronic system. And usually they post the classrooms daily because they change daily based on classes and everything like that. And teachers obviously can guarantee book rooms. And so there would be lines out the door where the office was, starting from like 7:30 sometimes when they got posted at 8 or something along those lines. Like Meadow could tell you better because like they were like first in line almost every time. But it was like you basically were fighting with all of the piano majors especially to get a classroom if you needed one. It was a mess. I don't know, I haven't been keeping up on what they've been doing, but they needed to re-evaluate their practice room system very seriously.
That doesn't sound very good, no. The online system I like and dislike it, but I don't know, there's not really a good way to do it per se.
Yeah, I know. I
I'm
mean,
very grateful that I have an office, which I'm sitting in right now. This is actually my office. Yay, yay, TA ships.
yeah, we only have one. There's only one flute TA for 28 or 29 flutists, and she's a DMA. So there aren't, sadly, we don't have that many options.
Me.
But
That's the one perk of going to a state school is at least there's more funding for
we're a state school.
what? Oh
I
yeah,
use
because
the state.
that is right. I don't know why I was
Yeah, everyone forgets, but it is.
I think it's because we think it's the music program. I don't know. I don't know then.
Jacobs, like Jacobs is its own creature. It's like if it could operate autonomously from the university, it probably would.
Mhm.
Just because the only reason they're still associated with IU is because we don't offer gen ed courses. Like they need IU itself to offer the rest of the degree.
Mhm.
Um, but most Jacobs students barely know anyone out of Jacobs, especially if you're in your master's. Like the only reason I know other people is because I took Dutch. But it's its own creature. There's 2,000 students, so like you can easily go 4 years here and never meet everyone. I'm still running into people I've literally never seen in my life who apparently are music students here.
God, that's crazy. That's so weird because like in the like I know everyone from both programs and I can't
Yeah.
picture that graduating with people that I don't know.
I mean, I know everyone in at Toronto. Like I know
Yeah.
everyone, and I know all the woodwinds basically. But if you there's brass players that you can put a photo in front of me and be like, I've literally never seen this person. What do they play? Are they
Yeah. Gosh. That's so crazy. I feel like I would like and dislike that a lot.
It's nice because you have there's a lot of opportunities just because it's such a big school, but then there's also a lot of people competing for those opportunities.
Yeah.
That's really something to keep in mind when you're looking at schools is like, yeah, small schools are great sometimes, but you don't always have the most opportunities in the world. But on the
Right.
other hand, the schools that give you a lot of opportunities that are big have more people than they need for those opportunities. So no matter what, you're always going to be competing.
Right. And sometimes, depending on the size of the school, is also the community that the school is within.
Yeah.
So if you're in a very active city with a very small music program, that could work to your advantage because if something they need someone like a ringer for something, or they're looking for like a church gig or something, the competition pool is relatively small. At least that's have been my experiences here in ECU. I mean, Greenville is. This whole area. There's not really a whole lot going on the art scene. So a lot of the gigs fall to the professionals that live here. But I've been able to get at least a fair amount of church gigs because of the area. And there aren't many people to compete with for these gigs. It's really, it's all about who you know, really. I didn't start getting gigs until my second year of my master's, mostly because I didn't know anyone in my first year.
What's nice about here is a lot, like basically any kind of musical thing has to go through the school because anything that's going to be music related is probably associated with the school
Mm-hmm.
or needs the musicians from the school to run it. Like the pits, even for the independent theater company, they hire Jacobs musicians for the pits, especially multi-instrumentalists, since we have a multi-instrumental major.
Mm-hmm.
It's only masters, but yeah. And they also will hire even within the school, they hire for gigs. Like Aces and Galateo was paid. I was hired for a concerto competition orchestra that was for a festival that was running at the same time. I've been hired for there's one composition event where they hire a pit. There's a lot of chances even within IU itself to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice because they pay $12 an hour, which is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually like $100+ per gig. It's really, really nice.
Nice.
And then if you know the right people, you can get hired for things like church gigs, especially if you're a singer. I have friends who do a lot of jazz around the city. I've done a lot of more volunteer stuff with contemporary organizations because, let's be real, contemporary music doesn't always pay, but it's still outside gigs, like unrelated to the school, apart from the fact that most of the people involved in it are going to the school.
Yeah.
So it is something that you can, even in a small town like Bloomington, which exists with like the world, like not worlds, but it's the largest music school in the U.S. for sure, if not North America.
Yeah. I can't think
So
of any other schools that are, at least from an architectural standpoint, of that size.
well, yeah, and we have like 2,000 students
Yeah.
in music alone. And IU itself is a really, really giant school. One of the only ones that's bigger is University of Toronto.
Mhm.
So apparently, I really like big schools. Though U of T's music program is really small.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
the schools I've been to, I mean, they're both medium-sized schools, I would say. At ECU is their campus is a little bit bigger, not excluding the medical school,
Mhm.
and the medical campus. The campus itself is a little bit bigger than what SU was for me. So I've been on all kind of the medium schools, but for like for doctoral degrees, I mean, the schools I'm considering are much bigger schools than I've been to.
Yeah.
Especially,
Where are you looking at for a DM?
I'm considering the Thornton School of Music. I'm looking.
Oh, I almost went to undergrad there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You almost studied with Jim Walker, or was he? Was
Oh,
he?
sorry. Never mind. I was thinking Nashville. Never mind. I USC. Never mind.
Yes, USC. USC.
Yeah. When you said Walker, I was like, shit. That wasn't what I meant.
I'm thinking about West Virginia University again for a doctoral. Yes, I love her so much. She's wonderful.
She got on my radar because one of my Ian, you know him.
Yeah.
He was going there for her and gave me one of her CDs, and I was like, whoa, this woman knows what she's doing. And then now she's not at
Just
BG.
like the new CD of like ethnic inspired contemporary music.
Mm.
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but it's on Amazon. It's actually sold out on Amazon, so
Whoa.
go her.
Yeah.
It'll be on iTunes soon. So I definitely wanted to listen to it. Where was I going? Oh yes, other schools. Yes, Nina's great. So that's why I wanted to try and reapply. Maybe I'll get like an assistantship or something where I can go. I'm considering Peabody, Eastman,
Who would you want to study at Peabody?
Marina Piccinini.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I asked
Eastman.
because there's another blogger who's at Peabody right now who isn't studying with Marina.
Who else teaches there?
I can currently not tell you her teacher's name. I should be able to because I talk to her regularly, but
No.
I can tell you who it is.
But other schools, Eastman, because it's Eastman.
And Benita's amazing.
Yeah. What other schools were I was thinking of? I was thinking of maybe CCM or CIM, and possibly NEC. But I don't really know a whole lot of the teachers at some of the bigger schools. I mean, I've played for Jim Walker.
Mhm.
I've played for Nina. I have not met Bonnie Boyd, and I haven't met Marina Piccinini.
Benita Boyd's amazing. I've played for her 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
A couple trial lessons, and then I auditioned there for my master's.
Mm-hmm.
She's real, like she knows her stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like I've had some kind of contact with half of the schools that I'm considering, and I haven't made contact with the other half. Mm-hmm. The goal over the next 2 to 3 years is to like try and get trial lessons and plan master classes for them, so I can figure out if I would want to consider doing a degree with them and visit. And so give me an excuse to travel a lot.
Look at you.
I'll think about it.
I'm not actually telling you to do that. I just want to meet you.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. You could come down south for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that face. Yeah, I know. I feel you on that one. I kind of want to get out myself.
I'm the one who went to Canada for my undergrad.
You're not ready for the South, girl.
I have been to the South. I did Swanee 2 years in a row. I was in high school though, so it doesn't really count.
No, you haven't lived. You're the parts of the South I've seen.
I mean, Swanee, Tennessee.
that. I don't know. Tennessee is different.
It's true. It's not like, it's kind of an in between.
Yeah, it's in between. North Carolina is definitely one of the more liberal states in the South. It's all downhill from here. Like, if you go any farther south, it's
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anything that the news in the past 2 weeks are a very clear indicator of that.
Out of curiosity, like, how did you go about deciding undergrad schools? Because that's probably more what people are thinking about.
Yeah. Well, my options were, I applied to 6 schools. I applied to University of New Hampshire, UMass Amherst, University of Connecticut, Western Connecticut State University, NYU, and what's the school I'm forgetting? Or maybe it was only 5. Oh, and SU. I actually went to. Gosh. All right. Well, out of those 6 schools, I only got into 2. I got into Syracuse University and I got into Western Connecticut State University.
Mm-hmm.
And my decision, and actually when I applied to WestCon, I didn't even get into their music program. They accepted me for the BA program, but they wouldn't accept me for music ed.
Oh.
So honestly, my decision was relatively simple because SU, they took me for the music program. I got in for music ed. And I got a pretty big grant because, I mean, SU is a very expensive school because it's private. But I got a really good sized grant, not from the university, not from the School of Music, to cover my tuition. The only thing I really had to pay for was room and board. I mean, it still would have been cheaper to go to WestCon because it would have been in-state tuition price. But I went with SU because I liked the school a lot. My teacher went there for her undergrad several decades before me. She's I think she's in her 60s when I was applying.
Mm-hmm.
If she ever heard me say that, she'd smack me. But but yeah, so I mean, I think she was there in the 70s or something. But I mean, the program's obviously completely different. So my decision was relatively simple. It was pretty easy. I mean, I was in a very different spot from where I was in high school. Like, if I ever post any of the recordings from myself from my senior year of high school, they will be very indicative of the reasons why I didn't get into a lot of the schools that I didn't get into. Like, I think I should have gotten. I was surprised that I didn't get into UNH, and I was very surprised I didn't get into UConn. But I thought that of the schools, I would have at least gotten into those 2. Which was fine because honestly, I didn't really want to go to UConn per se, because when I visited the campus, it was just really huge. And I was like, I don't want to live in a fortress, because that's all that Storrs, Connecticut is. I mean, outside of the university, it's farmland. It's located really in the rural part of Connecticut. But yeah, my decision was pretty simple. So I had a lot of problems going into undergrad. I couldn't double tongue. My vibrato was really out of control.
Isn't everyone?
What?
I feel like everyone's vibrato is like a mess when they go into undergrad.
Yeah, I was definitely no exception to that. Mine was just it was really fast and jagged sounding, like rah, like it just really. So I had to learn how to control it and make it more natural sounding. I never had trouble with vibrato production. That was something I'm so backwards with vibrato because I just remember before I started like taking lessons, my band director said, "Oh yeah, why don't you just try putting some vibrato on that note?" And I was like, "Okay." So then I just imitated what he did, and I learned how to use vibrato by ear. And so as far as the mechanics of it, eventually I figured it out. But no one had to actually teach me vibrato production. I just had to learn how to control what I already knew how to do, which makes teaching vibrato very difficult for me because I didn't struggle with it.
I have no idea how to do it either. It's really bad.
Yeah, articulation though. I mean, articulation, I struggled with that so damn much. I know how to teach that really well though. That's actually.
I have 9 teeth missing.
God. Okay. Yeah. You understand. There are three things that we struggle with. The more you struggle with something and you finally figure it out, the better you are at teaching it to somebody else because you have a variety of ways to approach the issue.
Exactly.
But I had a really pulled back smiley embouchure up to here, so I had no flexibility whatsoever. I had a very thin sound. My technique was awful. My rhythm was awful. And actually, I don't think I've ever admitted this on Tumblr, but I'm going to now because I've had accomplishments behind me where I can say this without embarrassment. I couldn't match pitch my freshman year of college.
Really?
Nope, couldn't. And I didn't, it wasn't until my senior year I figured out why. Because I wasn't singing in middle school, because we didn't really have like a general music class, or at least one where we were actually singing in, or if we were singing, it was not on pitch. And so when my voice changed, I wasn't singing in high school at all, so I never learned how to sing in my man voice. And it was something that like after ear training, like in the middle of ear training 1, like my teacher and I figured out that I could match pitch in my falsetto because it was closer to what I was used to hearing because I was playing flute. Mm-hmm. And so for a while I had to sing everything in my falsetto, and that was painful. That was really painful. And then sometime by the end of my freshman year, I had figured out how to sing in my man voice. And then since then, I was successful beyond that. Like my first semester of ear training, I got a D. Second semester, I got a C, and I was so proud of myself for getting my grade up. and then yeah, by the time I was in my sophomore year, I got an A in ear training 3, and then I got a B plus in ear training 4, which was generous because it was all atonal. Sight singing and dictation. Oh, flashbacks. But I mean, obviously I got better at it and I enjoy singing because since then I've been in choirs and I took voice lessons. I did choirs here and I wrote my master's on the benefit of singing for flutists. So it all comes full circle because I mean, I was so adamant my freshman year that I am not a singer. I'm not a singer.
That's funny.
That's really funny. So yeah, so yeah, I had just a ton of problems going in, and SU was really like the perfect place for me to do it in because everyone was really supportive. It was a small school, so even though I may not have been the strongest player, I still had opportunities, and I was in a really good nurturing environment that enabled me to go on to a graduate program and be successful. And I feel like I'm ready for a conservatory program where that at least maybe I can, on some level, keep up with people who play in conservatories. I don't know. That's good. That time will tell on that. But I feel like I'm in a much better. I'm still amazed at the progress I've made in 6 years. It's and like just the place I was that I'm in now compared both musically and mentally, it was totally different because I'm like. My first year really crushed my musical self-esteem. Like I almost quit. And because I didn't think I could do anything. And like some of my professors were telling me that I should maybe reconsider other degree possibilities. And I was completely crushed after my freshman year of college. This isn't trying to scare all you young ones out there, but it is a reality, especially like if you've never taken theory or ear training or anything like that. It's really scary and it's difficult because you have to learn it fast. You don't have the time to struggle with it, unfortunately. At least theory, it's more of a mental, conceptual thing where it's more, I don't want to say academic based, but it's You know, it's not as like, it's not as nebulous as ear training is.
Ugh.
Right? So
I'm
like
taking remedial grad student ear training right now. Like,
I don't want, I hope I never have to do that. Like somehow we don't do that here at ECU, so I dodged that bullet entirely.
jealous.
I got very jealous. But at that time, I had a lot of people telling me no. And when I went home that summer, I started taking lessons with a different teacher in Connecticut who completely changed my flute life entirely. Like I had gotten a lesson with her over Christmas break, and I really want to learn more from her, and she completely changed everything about me. She changed my embouchure in the summer, taught me how to double tongue. I learned how to control my vibrato. I learned how to get a good sound. She showed me how to be independent even when I wasn't with her. And she just was very supportive and completely believed me the entire way. And really studying that summer with her really set the path from what is becoming my career. I owe a lot to Kim Collins. She's a wonderful person. And like, I've gone back to and talked to her, like having been on the other side of things now. And I was like, it's like, you were really supportive and encouraging of me. And really, you're the reason that I made it as far as I did. And the one thing she always said, she's like, I believed in you from the start. I knew you would be good because you're just like, you're too good of a worker to not be successful. That's why I believed in you and I wasn't telling you no. I love her far too much and I miss her dearly. So yeah, that's I don't know, it's so crazy, just the journey that it is, and it just goes so fast. It really does.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about the amount of progress you make in just like 4 years of undergrad, 6 years of college total, it's really incredible how much progress you make.
Well, it's like I get asked a lot to put up old recordings, or like recently, or like 3 months ago, someone asked for a recording of Poem, and I thought I had one from my undergrad. Turns out the only one I had was from my my undergrad pre-screenings.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened through it and I was like, okay, this is okay. I'm willing to post this, especially with a date on it. But it's so crazy to listen to that and then to listen to my recital recordings from this year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like with the Franck, it's an equivalent style to the things that I have recordings from high school. Because I mean, you can't compare that my contemporary stuff to anything else I was doing because it's a completely different skill set. But it was so weird. Mm-hmm. Even to my senior recital or to my junior recital, which were very, very strong, and those 2 years are honestly where I really excelled. My first 2 years, my first year I had surgery, so you can't count that for anything because I lost a full month and kind of just had to throw everything together to get my jury done. Sophomore year was rebuilding and getting used to it and trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. And then junior and senior year is like when I really got to the point where I could actually do what I wanted to do and get better. And then those 2 years are really what propelled me into having a really successful grad application.
Yeah.
So even listening to the recitals from those 2 years, where I know for a fact I got miles better to now, it's insane.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because I recently compared I listened to my performance of the Reinecke Sonata I did that on my senior recital in undergrad, and I compared that to some of the stuff like this to more like I don't really have anything from my grad recital that's comparable to that, but like things like the Oasin and Chandelinos and all that stuff that's more onto the traditional side of rep. It's so interesting to hear because I'm like, I hear I hear all the same phrasing ideas. It's all like the same musicianship, but like the tone quality and all the other stuff associated with it is so much better and cleaner and fuller. And that was just from 2 years. And and even listening to, because I recently, I did like my own arrangement of the Carmen Fantasy where I picked and chose the variations I wanted to play in. You don't like that piece very much?
Yes, so much.
Why? Have you just heard it too many times?
I've heard it too many times. I've had to play it. I don't like. I've never had to perform it, but I've had to. I had to learn it. My teacher made me learn it, though she hates it almost as much as I do. Um, it's just like it's lame.
I like it, but anyway, I did it in high school, and I had no business playing that goddamn piece in high school, but I did it, and what?
I did the ditty when I was 16. We don't talk about it. It was terrible.
Oh God, I still haven't done the "Do to You" yet. I need to. That and the Griffiths poem. They're on the list.
Where have you been?
What?
How have you not played those?
Well, I wanted to do it for my senior recital in my undergrad, but someone else was learning it. So my teacher said no. Okay. Well, we also had a small studio, so it's not like we can, they could get away with saying that. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll do. So I was like, what can I do instead? So then I said, Reinica. Something that's way longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a much bigger bear. I mean, difficulty-wise, I think maybe the "Do to You" might be harder, but
yeah, but the ditty is
a stamina. Yeah, the Reinica is a stamina thing. I don't know. Oh God, I love that piece so much. Where was oh yeah, and then I don't know. I've never really been interested in the Griffiths poem.
It's like my favorite piece ever. That's not even true, but it's one of my favorite pieces.
It just doesn't do it for me.
I think it's the piece. So I had my first surgery when I was 15. So I was a sophomore in high school, and I had been when I had surgery, I was learning Mozart G major and the Chaminade, and actually recorded those for my first festival auditions. That's how I got into Swanee the first time. But it was really last minute. I was a month out of surgery. They were a mess. Like, those are recordings no one is ever going to hear. But I continued playing, and after I was done with those auditions, I was looking for a new piece. And my teacher's like, oh, well, there's this piece by an American composer. It's really pretty. I'm sure you'll really love it. And it was poem. And that's the piece where I really started feeling everything come back, and started feeling like I could actually come back from my surgery and come back from everything that I had just been through. So I think it's more when I learned it and why I learned it than itself.
I feel like we all have pieces that are kind of like that. For me, that's like how the UNESCO is. I love that piece so much.
I love that piece too.
I learned it always reminds me of summer. I don't know why. Like, when I listen to the first movement of it, I just think of summer all the time. That's because that's when I learned it. I learned it the summer before I started undergrad.
I did too.
Oh, look at that. We were playing it at the same time.
No, you're younger.
What? Oh, yeah. Younger. That's right. I always forget that you're the same age as me. And I don't know. I feel I have a strong emotional connection to the Hamburger Sonata by C.P. Bach, because that was the summer I learned it with Kim, when she deconstructed me entirely, then built me back up. And that's when I started feeling more confident again. And like, my musical self-esteem and confidence dropped completely my freshman year. Like, I just didn't feel confident as a musician anymore. And I didn't really start getting that back until like my senior year of college. The first time I ever walked out on stage fearless without nerves was my senior recital. And that was because I did my senior recital after my grad school auditions, and all of my repertoire on that recital I had auditioned on. Mm-hmm. So I had multiple exposures to it. And
you memorize the title rep multiple times before you put it on something.
Mm-hmm. See, some people do it differently, because I've known a lot of people who they'll do their senior recitals before their grad school auditions, which is also a great idea to do.
Mm-hmm. If you can.
You can. A lot of, I don't know, however you want to do it.
But it's nice, like whatever you're doing, it's nice to have a trial run that you don't care as much about. Whether it's you care more about your audition, so you want your recital to be before it, or you want your recital to go really, really well, so you have a couple auditions or like a church gig to line up beforehand.
Yeah. And, or even like with certain pieces, if you're doing a concerto competition, because I was doing ECU's concerto competition. And so my friend and I, we gave a joint recital in the first month of school last year. We gave one in September, and I did 2 movements of the Reinecke concerto alongside other pieces I had been learning for my for the summer. And so I got a chance to at least perform most of the concerto with music before I had to play it from memory, even though how I played it from memory was a shit show. And that is a recording that will never see the light of day. I haven't even listened to it myself yet.
I still haven't listened to my Franck Sonata. Like, I haven't listened to the 4th movement because I had this massive like blank out moment where I got off by like a beat, and I know it's there and I just can't listen to it.
Yeah, that's yeah, I get that. Where was I going with that train of thought? I don't remember. I lost it.
But we've been going for like an hour and a half, so we should probably
stop soon. It's almost 6 o'clock, actually.
But yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
we
concluding thoughts.
Basically, we like musical journeys are very different for everyone, and don't feel like yours is invalid because ours is different.
Yeah. And just because you go to a smaller school doesn't necessarily mean that you're not getting the same experience that someone else is at a bigger school.
And quite honestly, literally everyone I know who goes here for grad school, like goes to IU, went to a tiny middle of nowhere kind of school for their undergrad. Like, I went to one of the bigger ones, and Toronto isn't a big deal music school. It's a big music school, but it's not like the Eastmans of the world.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you need to go to Eastman or IU or NEC or one of these big name schools that we all know just because you feel like it's going to put you in the best place. It might not. Like, any little school that has the best professor that you could ever have might just be down the street, and that might be better than any of the other schools I just listed off.
Right. And my 2 degrees are from schools that are on like in the grand scheme of things, my 2 degrees are from small schools. But I feel like I got a damn good education. I was in the right place at the right time, and I feel very confident in my performing abilities. And I've had experiences where I've gone to summer festivals and master classes where I'm playing alongside kids who are currently going to conservatories, and I can keep up with them just fine. It's really all about how hard you're working and who you're studying with.
Exactly. That's really the teacher, and how you apply what your teacher is telling you and how hard you work is a much bigger deal than where you go.
Right. Because honestly, I mean, having a degree from a big name school going out will help you get initial gigs, because like if you have a degree from Eastman, for example, it's like, oh, they'll see, because they know what Eastman is, they'll know that you're a good musician. Like, my teacher went to Eastman for her master's degree, and that helped her get so many gigs starting out because she had the name associated with her. But I mean, really, when it comes to the big gigs, like if you take a symphony orchestra audition, they're not going to care where you really went to school.
They care how you play.
Exactly. And that's why the first round is blind.
At least you're the first round.
Yeah, possibly the second. So
I think that's, and we had an idea for the next time we do this.
Yes, next time we do this, we'll do a Q&A.
So send either me or Willie questions.
Yes, drop them in our asks, fan mail, whichever, and we will save them for. If you want your question to be featured on here, just say so in the thing, so we don't think it's just
explain that it's not a question that you want one of us to answer like at that time. Just say for a video or something like that. And I'll probably also make a post
Yes.
about this, so that way people who didn't necessarily see this part of the video,
Yes. Because I mean, an hour and a half is a long time to stick around for.
which we appreciate if any of you have stuck around for the whole thing.
Absolutely. And we will do this, I don't know, maybe next Sunday?
Yeah.
I'm out of town on Friday and Saturday anyway.
I'm here until the 25th, so yeah.
Perfect.
Sometime in the next week or so.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yay!
Yay! This happened. Okay. So yeah, happy rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon.
See you next time.